Hello guys, this is Movie Lover and welcome to this Movie Lover world. Today, I'm going to explain a fantasy film called Enter the Void. A junkie named Oscar has been staying in Tokyo for some time, but he refuses to get a real job, so he has turned to drug dealing to sustain his addiction. The illicit trade has also allowed him to save up some money to buy his sister, Linda, a plane ticket to join him in Japan. While observing the sky from their apartment's balcony, Oscar suddenly wonders what it would be like to view Tokyo from above. Linda tells him that she doesn't want to think about it because she fears falling to death. As Linda gets ready to leave for work, Oscar shows her the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which he borrowed from his friend, Alex. After taking a brief look at the book, Linda warns Oscar that Alex will turn him into a junkie and eventually convert him to Buddhism. After Linda leaves, Oscar lights up a pipe while denying that he's turned into a junkie. As he is tripping, his friend Victor calls him, asking Oscar to bring his share of the pills to him at a bar called The Void. Still on the high, Oscar asks Victor if he could come over to his apartment instead, but Victor insists on meeting at the bar. Victor hangs up before Oscar could tell him that he'd rather wait for him at home. As Oscar tries to sober up to meet up with Victor, Alex arrives at the apartment. Alex tells Oscar that he saw his sister with a guy named Mario. Oscar confesses that he hates the man and swears that he would kill the baby if Linda ever gets pregnant with him. Alex says he'd like to see Linda, so Oscar tells him that they can visit her, but they'll have to stop by the Void first. Alex tells him that he doesn't like the place, so he'll just wait for him outside. Alex sees the amount of drugs Oscar is bringing, so he warns him that he's carrying too much. Alex advises him to ask Victor to pick up the pills at the apartment, but Oscar discloses that Victor refuses to come because of what happened with his mother. As they are heading out, Oscar asks Alex if their drug dealer, Bruno, has something more potent than DMT. Alex warns him that the substance will fry his brains. He advises Oscar to finish the Book of the Dead instead and wait for his big trip when he dies. Oscar confesses that he's still confused by the book, so Alex starts explaining it as they walk to the Void. Alex asserts that people who die will get to watch the moments of their life reflected in a magic mirror. Afterward, they'll float like a ghost with the ability to see and hear everything happening around them, but they won't be able to communicate with living people. Alex explains that there will be doorways to higher planes of existence, but most people refuse to leave. Those who stay will start having a bad trip, and their only option to get out will be to get reincarnated. When Oscar asks him what happens when people experience a bad trip, Alex stresses that people will start having nightmares, and all their fears will be manifested until they wish they never died. They'll have an opportunity to escape their predicament when they see dark yellow lights representing couples making love. When they take a closer look, they'll get a vision of a possible future life with them, and they'll be allowed to choose the kind of life that would suit them best. Finally, they'll end up in a womb and get reincarnated. Alex explains that the cycle will repeat until they manage to break out of it. Oscar is somewhat disappointed to hear that the afterlife holds nothing better for people. As they get closer to the bar, Alex tells Oscar that he can't wait to see Linda. He tells Oscar to take good care of her, warning him that he's posing a danger to her because he's turning into a drug dealer. Oscar reminds Alex that he's the one who introduced him to Bruno. Despite that, Alex is still quite concerned about Oscar, so he advises him to get a real job, suggesting that he could work as a bartender or a DJ. Alex also chides Oscar about his affair with an older woman, pointing out that there's a lot of younger Japanese women in Tokyo. When they arrive at the Void, Alex tells him that he doesn't want to watch him dealing drugs with Victor, so he'll just wait outside. As Oscar walks to the bar entrance, he tells himself that Alex is a bigger junkie than him. When he sees Victor, Oscar tells him that he brought his share of the drugs, but he's puzzled when Victor apologizes to him. Before he could ask him why he apologized, the police burst into the room. Oscar immediately runs to the toilet and tries to flush the drugs. They keep banging on the door, so Oscar tells them that he's got a gun and he'll shoot if they don't leave. Soon, one of the cops fires his weapon through the door, hitting Oscar in the chest. As he drops down to the ground, he starts to wonder if he's dying. He fears that they'll send him to jail if he survives, because he still has some drugs on his system. While watching the police check his vital signs, Oscar tries to convince himself that he's still tripping on DMT. He starts to worry about his sister as his heartbeat slows down. Soon, Oscar sees his dead body lying on the floor as the police search his pockets for more drugs. When he flies out of the bar, Oscar sees Victor getting hysterical while the police drag him to their car. Alex tries to find out from the authorities what happened, but they only tell him there was an accident. When Alex asks Victor He learns that they shot Oscar and killed him. Alex runs away when the police try to arrest him. He tries to enter a strip club, but the guards stop him, saying it's private. When Oscar wanders inside the club, he finds Linda dancing on the stage. After the dance, she goes to the dressing room and fools around with Mario, her manager. When her cell phone rings, she tries to answer it, but Mario puts it down. Alex leaves her a message, telling her that the cops killed her brother at the Void while bringing drugs to Victor. Alex advises her to find out what happened for herself, because the cops are after him. Back inside the club, Oscar watches Linda as she gets intimate with Mario. When Mario finally leaves her, Linda listens to the message and starts crying after hearing what happened to her brother. Oscar starts recalling the moments with his sister and their parents when they were children. He soon relives when their parents died in a car crash while they were on their way to a trip. As the police investigate the accident, Oscar tries to comfort Linda as she cries for their mom. Sometime after the tragedy, Oscar and Linda make a pact never to leave each other. They seal their promise by cutting their thumbs and putting them together. However, the authorities soon take them and send them to separate foster homes. As the Child Protective Services agent takes Linda away, she calls out to Oscar, reminding him of their pact. Later on, Oscar is taken back to the time before Linda joined him in Tokyo. When Alex advises him to bring his sister to Japan, Oscar tells him that he doesn't have enough money. He asserts that he could start dealing drugs, but Alex tells him that it's too dangerous. When Victor invites him to have dinner at their home, he learns that Victor's mother, Susie, once made money by dancing at a strip club. After dinner, Susie offers to lend Oscar some money to bring Linda to Japan. Sometime later, Susie visits him in his apartment and sleeps with him. While he gets intimate with Susie, Oscar recalls being nursed by his mother. Later on, Oscar remembers his mother promising to watch over him from the sky when she dies. As the days go by, Oscar starts offering drugs to every local woman that he meets. Soon, Oscar calls Linda and tells her that he now has enough money for a plane ticket. When Linda asks how he got the money, he just tells her that he has a job. Oscar soon revisits the day Alex introduced him to Bruno. Alex warns him to be careful about taking drugs at Bruno's place because he does nasty things to people when they're high. When they get inside Bruno's flat, he buys some acid and asks the dealer if he has DMT. On their way out of the apartment, Alex tells him that DMT only lasts for 6 minutes, but it seems like an eternity. Alex explains that it's the same chemical that is released in the brain when a person dies. He surmises that dying would be the ultimate trip. Alex lends Oscar the Tibetan Book of the Dead and tells him to read it before he tries DMT. Alex reveals that he once had an out-of-body experience, but he got scared that he wouldn't be able to get back to his body when he saw himself from above. Soon, Oscar fetches his sister from the airport and takes her to an amusement park. On the roller coaster ride, he recalls the accident that killed their parents. They were left to their grandparents after the internment, but they couldn't stay with them for long. Child Protective Services had to take them away because their grandmother cannot take care of them due to her health problems. Not long after Linda arrived in Japan, Oscar tells her that he dreamt about the accident again. She tells him that it doesn't matter because they'll be living like a family again. One night, Oscar invites Linda to a club and asks her to try a drug. After taking the pill, Linda starts dancing sensually and invites Alex to join her. When Alex refuses, Mario approaches Linda and gives her a card. Linda and Mario spend some time together drinking as Oscar talks with Victor about scoring some drugs. When he takes Linda home, he notices that she got very drunk. She tells Oscar that she's delighted to be with him again. She pleads to Oscar not to leave her, hinting that they should die together. Oscar tells her that they'd never die. When they get home, Linda asks her if he wants to find a real job. Oscar refuses and tells her that people who work are slaves. Alex soon learns that Mario offered her sister a job at a strip club. Since his sister is new to Japan, Oscar feels very protective of her, so he visits her at work and tells Mario not to touch her. Mario, however, brushes him off and tells him not to act like a bad brother. While scoring some pills from Bruno, Oscar suddenly mentions that he's sharing them with Victor. Bruno, who's very paranoid about getting caught, dissuades Oscar from mentioning his friend to him or telling his friend about him. In the strip club, Oscar offers some drugs to the girls inside the dressing room. Not long, Mario arrives and castigates Oscar for selling pills to the dancers. Mario threatens to kill Oscar if he ever sees him inside the club again. Oscar gets furious with Linda when she fails to come home one night. He asks Linda to inform him whenever she spends time with Mario. Linda, however, insists that she was not with him. She then asks Oscar if he's jealous of her boss. Bruno meets with Oscar outside to give him some ecstasy and tell him that he has some DMT. After Getting the pills, Oscar stops by Victor's house and tries to flirt with Susie, but Victor arrives and sees them. As Victor tries the drugs in Oscar's apartment, he asks Oscar if he slept with his mother. He tries to deny it, but Victor asks him again, so he admits it. Victor gets angry and smashes a bottle on his head. Victor runs away, so Oscar chases after him, but he cannot catch up to him. The following day, he receives a call from Susie, telling him that Victor did not come home. Later, he tells Linda about the fight he had with Victor. When Linda leaves for work, he trips on the drugs that Bruno sold him. Not long, he receives a call from Victor, telling him to meet him at the Void. As soon as he meets Victor, the police arrive and shoot him in the bathroom. After floating out of his body, Oscar watches his sister identify his corpse at the morgue. Later on, he witnesses his body entering the cremation chamber. When Linda gets home, she burns all of Oscar's drugs. She tells Alex's friend, Saki, that the police refused to conduct an autopsy on Oscar. While she talks with Saki on the phone, Oscar flies to Alex's apartment, while the police search for clues about his location. After the search, the cops interrogate Victor and threaten him with jail time if he doesn't tell them what he knows about Alex. A few days later, Linda takes a pregnancy test and asks Alex's friend, Saki, to read the result because it's in Japanese. After taking a look, Saki reluctantly tells her that it's positive. At the strip club, Mario meets with Bruno and asks for some coke. Bruno tells him that he got rid of all his drugs because he fears Victor might have mentioned him to the police. Oscar floats to Victor's home and finds Susie berating Victor for calling the cops. As the argument escalates, Victor tells his father that Susie slept with his best friend. Victor's dad hits him and tells him to get out of the house. When Oscar flies back to the club, he hears a dancer telling Mario that Linda is just using him. By that time, Linda is at a clinic to terminate her pregnancy. Back at the club, Mario tells the dancer that he likes Linda. He claims that Linda told him she wants to have a baby with him. On the streets, Oscar sees Alex calling a friend to ask for some money and a jacket. He tells his friend to visit his roommate, Tito, but he warns him against calling him because the police might be tapping their phones. In Alex's apartment, Linda tells Saki that he regrets going out with Mario and says she should have dated Alex instead. Saki lets her know that Alex has called to tell them he's okay. Meanwhile, Oscar sees Alex scavenging for food in the dumpsters. When Linda meets up with Mario, she learns that she was fired from the club because the boss didn't like how she dances. Mario tells her that he'll take care of her, but Linda tells him that she would have taken her own life already if she only didn't get the feeling that Oscar wasn't watching over her. She wishes that Oscar would come back to life. Mario tells Linda to stop hurting herself and accept the fact that her brother is dead. When Oscar enters Linda's head, he finds himself waking up in the morgue. The mortician notices that he's awake, so he informs the police. As they prepare to take Oscar home, a detective asks Linda to let the police know if Oscar can speak. Inside the car, Linda tells Mario that the man who woke up at the morgue is not her brother. When Oscar tries to touch Linda, she freaks out, so Mario punches him. When he checks himself in the mirror at home, he sees a different face for a moment, but things appear to be normal when he briefly closes his eyes and opens them again. Later, he finds Alex in the tunnels writing some graffiti on the walls. Alex notices him and reminds him that he was cremated days ago. When he remembers, Oscar ends up back in their apartment observing Linda and Mario. Linda wakes up and tells Mario that she dreamed that her brother was brought back to life in the morgue. She confesses that she feels uneasy having Oscar's remains in the box, so she says goodbye to him and dumps his ashes on the kitchen sink. Tito soon meets up with Alex to bring him a jacket and inform him that Linda wants to see him. Oscar flies to the apartment and sees Victor apologizing to Linda for Oscar's death. When she tells Victor to kill himself, he tries to explain why he turned Oscar over to the police. Victor claims that Oscar started dealing drugs because Linda was hanging out with sleazy people. She gets enraged that he's somehow blaming her for what happened to Oscar, so she tells him to leave the apartment. Mario tries to console Linda as she gets hysterical, but she asks him to leave as well. Later on, Linda meets up with Alex and rides a taxi with him. As Oscar observes them inside the vehicle, he recalls the accident that took their parents. Soon, Alex and Linda get out of the taxi. After stopping at the Love Hotel, after observing several couples getting intimate in other rooms, he soon finds Linda and Alex making love. After a while, Oscar sees a couple taking care of a child in bed. Inside the room, he sees a little girl walking around carrying a stuffed toy. As Linda and Alex begin to climax, Oscar enters Linda's body and watches her get impregnated. Soon, Oscar hears the cries of a woman as he exits her womb. Oscar observes the woman with his blurred vision as she gathers her breath from giving birth. The baby cries uncontrollably after someone cuts the umbilical cord. Thanks for watching Movie Lover. We'll meet you again with new story till take care.